DNF Duel is dead. Well, people also said that about another very similar fighting game called meltyblood, which has had a massive resurgence, looking at the active players shooting from in the low hundreds to 4,000 concurrent players as of the latest patch. Everything we're hearing about DNF was said about meltyblood right after it released, like 3 or 4 weeks. So these charts don't mean everything, but they're valuable with context. For example, that initial peak number day 1 or 2 means very little, especially since this is Steam where you can play a game after you buy it only for 2 hours or less, and then you can smash that refund button and get your money back. So that 13,000 isn't real. A lot of people just want to see what the hype is about. Looking a few days past launch is where we can see how many people the community is actually comprised of for that particular game. And meltyblood did not have a very large community that liked playing the game. And anime games have the same popularity curves. We see it time and time again, but meltyblood is doing something to buck that trend. Typically when a new hyped up anime game drops, it's the flavor of the month. It's labeled a big game killer. Melty was the strive killer, which I very clearly was not true. And everybody rides the hype. You have the content creators that enjoy playing it and they make the content for it, which encourages others to be influenced by that and go try it out. The tournament organizers, well, they organize tournaments and their prize pools, so all the people enjoying the game can try to compete for it. And this goes on until the game falls out of season, which can happen very quickly under certain circumstances, as we've seen with meltyblood in its first few months, and as we're seeing currently with DNF Duel after just 2 months. And after a few months of going on like that with a very tight community and being labeled a Discord fighter, the anime game will inevitably go on sale and you recreate a bit of the magic that you had on that first launch day. You'd be surprised at how many people that I talked about refund the game on that first day actually really enjoyed it. But a $50 investment for a fighting game typically is not worth it to a sizable amount of people. With fighting games, the major appeal is playing with other people online. And oftentimes there's little in the way of single player content, and when there is, it's not really that enjoyable a lot of the time. So boom, that's usually enough to sustain whatever anime niche fighting game for a bit longer so that it can be considered a success. But here's how meltyblood pulled this paradigm shift. They literally changed the entire game, something very out of the ordinary for a Japanese developer. They listened to the Western audience's complaints. There were a lot of things about Type Lumina that people didn't like, and not just like new players, but a lot of experienced players voiced concern over many of the system mechanics. Particularly things like the shield system, which people felt gave super high reward for very little risk.
In this game, it feels like I'm fighting the system. I want to see all those system mechanic stuff nerfed so that, you know, the individual characters can shine more. You can buff the individual characters too.
And the developers came and said, hey, okay, we heard you and we're changing it. Here you go. Show us that you weren't just blowing hot air and that you actually want to play the game. And apparently people weren't lying because thousands more people hopped back on to see if they like the changes or not today. And you gotta understand, if you're new to fighting games and how fighting game companies work and how publishers do what they do, 10 years ago, this is meltyblood Arcade Edition Hyper Fighting EX, insert weirdly compelling English subtitle here. Publisher saying, give me another $50. This is a brand new game. 5 years ago, fighting game companies started cashing on a little bit, so they were like, alright, here's the new game for $50, but if you already spent $50 last time for the base version that had nothing and you hated it, give me $30 and we'll upgrade it for you. But here's how they played it for Type Lumina. They had an almost half-off sale right around Evo when there was a bunch of hype because they announced some more free DLC characters, so all the existing Melty fans get lured back in with these weird-ass cat troll characters that are it's a fan favorite or whatever. And that flavor of the month hype that we talked about, that got generated again, which is really hard to do. Promised even more free characters, music, stages, all that good stuff. And now with everything buzzing, they announced this patch addressing everybody's concern about the game, ended the sale right before the patch went live, so it's back to full price. They got the goodwill of the anime FGC, and they're set up for future success with their game now. So this begs the question, can Arxis do this with DNF? And absolutely, without a question, off rip, balance patch coming in a week or two for DNF. We can expect a weaker Swiftmaster, and with the way y'all be crying about him, that alone is going to have a smooth 100 people playing the game again. The season pass will inevitably get announced. That's just common sense. I don't even have to go into a long diatribe about that. But how can DNF do what Melty did and go to the next level? Easy. Just listen. I think the game is fine. I love it. I have no problem with how the system mechanics work. But most people, they thought they wanted a game like Marvel vs. Capcom 3, which the gameplay developers for DNF Duel aiding also created. But it turns out that they don't like dying very quickly. So, people complain about the lack of defensive options, complaints about survivability. People have even labeled it a kusoge, meaning a shitty broken game, which, sidebar, this is really silly, but that could be a whole other video. So the devs got a choice here. They can stick to what I believe that they believe is a finely crafted system of mechanics, or they could listen to the people. Reduce damage output, change a few system mechanics, add some mechanics. People say that they want some sort of burst mechanic because they don't want to get comboed for 5 seconds. Whatever. They can figure it out. They can do what Melty Blood did. It's not hard. DNF is super appealing to people, especially that are new to the genre. It's so pretty, it's flashy, it has a popular IP attached. DFO is one of the most popular MMOs ever. Compare that to a very niche visual novel that Melty Blood is based off of. The few thousand concurrent players, that's typically a good sign for these two anime fighting games. DFO has had 25 million active users in a single month before. So the execs over there probably have a decent handle on what they're doing. They just need to adapt the approaches they've had to success there. And the Melty Blood creators have shown them that you can innovate a little bit past the bog standard methods that niche anime fighters have used to grasp for air in the past. Like, you know, listening to the people that want to play your game and deliver what they're asking for. Is Melty Blood going to be like Guilty Gear Strive and have 4,000 players playing on PC every single day? Absolutely not. These numbers are going to drop. Of course, it's an anime fighter and it's going to fall out of season again. But two very important things here. As a developer, French Bread has rewarded the trust of the Melty Blood Type Lumina faithful that were in those Discord communities setting up games and that believed in the future of the game. You have earned the trust of a new set of people that will fall in love with the game, and you will have higher concurrent player numbers than you did 2 months ago. And now you have a bunch more people to evangelize about the game, tell other people, hey, Melty Blood has pretty good developers, this game has a decent future. And now, even when you're out of season, you're not out of rotation. And that is the main appeal of the fighting game community that some developers lose sight of. As long as people enjoy your game and build an affinity towards its aesthetics, its characters, or anything associated with it, they will play it for decades. People are still clamoring to be able to play Marvel 2 with rollback netcode on current consoles. So while I don't play Melty Blood myself, I'm very excited and happy for the Type Lumina fans out there. And let's see if the DNF Duel publisher and developers can all work together to take away the lessons that they should take away from Melty Blood's revival.